Would you eat me? Rams is dead. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Game of Toms. I am your host, Tom Grossi. Thank you so much for tuning in. This week we are reviewing Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 9, Battle of the Bastards, which was, I'm going to get the rating out of the way immediately, 10 out of 10. Best episode of the season, probably one of my favorite episodes of the series. Just amazing. Everything was amazing. From the opening to the last shot, it was just absolutely incredible. It was actually satisfying. We saw a longtime villain finally come to an end. And it was just glorious. It really, really was glorious. But as we do each week, let's get into it. The first thing opening up is a Daenerys sequence, which was, honestly, it's top 3 of the best ones I've ever seen. Maybe I'm thinking like the best Dany scenes I've ever seen is, of course, in Season 1 at the very end, when she comes out, she has the dragons on her for the first time, or when she uses Dracarys for the first time and lighting the wizards on fire. But this is, I know where all the budget money went this season, and it was into this episode. We saw not 1, not 2, but 3 flying puppies getting into the mix in an absolutely incredible opening. Just visually, it looked amazing. Dany riding her dragons, completely destroying the Master's fleet. Grey Worm killing those other 2 Masters as basically an example of this is what happens when you mess with Daenerys. And I feel like this has been the scene that fans of Daenerys have been waiting for the entire season, and quite for some time, because her story has just been so slow. She's just been stuck in place, so stagnant for such a long time. And I remember like looking over and was like, this is Game of Thrones. Like watching dragons just like burn ships and things like that. It was an incredibly awesome sequence. And in the very beginning, you have to kind of feel bad for Tyrion, right? Because Dany gets back and is like, what did you do? He's like, I mean, like, business is up. The people in the shop are doing well. That's a good thing. I mean, yeah, a little bit. Things are on fire a bit. Okay, we could have done better. But Tyrion really was able to shine in this episode as well. The part with the Masters was hysterical when they're saying, like, all right, you know, you need to choose one person to die, and they all throw that guy up in the middle, and then Grey Worm just kills them both. And Tyrion's like, okay, well, you need to tell everybody what happened here, and even if you get the inkling of an idea to retaliate, you just remember, I will kill you. So that was fantastic. We had the very first meeting between Ramsay and Jon Snow. Ramsay, of course, Ramsay's been a little absent this season. I mean, the last time we saw him was, what, episode 3 of this season? But reminding everyone very quickly why we hate him. And Ramsay, you know, having the shaggy dog head, which is always another way for me to hate him because he killed a puppy. Not very happy about that. But Sansa with an awesome line telling Ramsay that you're going to die tomorrow and sleep well. And this was really a Sansa episode, too. She really just showed, you know, how much she's grown as a character this season and over the series, and it was really awesome. I think my number 1 fear for this entire episode was 2 people potentially dying. That was one that was Tormund, and I had a heart attack almost when he died. But thankfully Tormund did not die, so him and Brienne can make the most beautiful babies ever created on God's green earth. So thank God for that. And the second person was Wub Wub, the giant, which he went down swinging, and of course it had to be Ramsay to kill him, so I'm glad he got beaten to a bloody pulp, but we'll get there in a moment. This also another event that we've been kind of waiting for all season is Davos finally finds Shireen's pyre. She finds the stag that he gave her, and if you looked at the previously showing what, you know, led up to this point, when they brought the stag again, I was like, oh no, that's how he's going to find out. And the scenes from next week also showed him finally confronting Melisandre and saying, hey, tell him what you did. So I am very surprised Davos didn't go full-blown and kill Melisandre right there. But that was a heartbreaking scene of Davos actually finding the stag, and the legs were burnt off. That was terribly, terribly depressing. But we went back to, real quick, before we get to the full-blown battle, which was amazing. We had Theon and Yara finally getting to Dany. And it was so funny seeing Tyrion and Theon, very unlikely because they haven't come across each other since season 1. And Tyrion going, "How are things going for you?" And Theon's like, "Well, got my wang chopped off, got tortured for a really long time, became a slave, the usual. Other than that, things were great. How about you?" So that was great, but Yara really kind of convincing Dany, like, "Hey, let's join up, #feminism, #girl power," and talking kind of their relationship of, listen, we all had crappy fathers, we all had evil fathers, let's make the world a better place. And bringing up Euron and everything else, and let's help kill an uncle or two. And it seems, based on what we heard, that maybe she has enough ships to finally go to Westeros. And I said this in the very beginning of the season, that I feel like at the very end, this has to be the season where Dany finally is going to go off to Westeros, because we don't have much left. We really don't. So I feel like this is going to be the time in which she does. And then the rest of the episode was dedicated to this battle. And I've been looking forward to this episode, not just because it's episode 9, and they usually bring everything. They throw the budget, they throw everything at episode 9. It's usually the best of the season. Well, we got an awesome battle scene, because they were talking about, in the very beginning, I was looking at interviews between the writers, and they were saying that we'd never had, a full-blown battle scene. Full-blown medieval soldiers against soldiers running at each other, killing each other. We've never seen that. We've gotten little tidbits of it. We had Blackwater in season 2, which was a great battle, but it was very reduced. But this was freaking awesome. The scene, oh god, first you had the flayed men ornaments that were hanging all around the field, lovely for Christmas time. And you had this scene where Rickon is sent to run to Jon, and it's going to end poorly, right? And at first, the first thought I had was oh, he's going to sick the dogs after him, but he didn't, and he pulls out a bow, and I was like, oh no. And you saw he wasn't aiming for the first couple shots. He was looking away, looking at the other guy, and he's so close to Jon, and Rickon gets hit with an arrow, and that was just absolutely heartbreaking. And there's that awesome scene where Jon, his horse, he's charging, his horse gets hit with a bunch of arrows, hopefully no horses were harmed in the making of this episode. He takes off his sheath, pulls out his sword, and I honestly thought for a second, I was like, holy crap, they're gonna kill Jon Snow again? Because they had full-blown horses coming at him, but boom, cavalry hits, and it was just an awesome, chaotic scene, which really captured, what the essence was of a battlefield, in that it's completely random, it's complete chaos. And it was epic as hell. It was so freaking awesome to watch. I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed just watching it, the spectacle of it, and I had anxiety the entire time. My blood pressure was absolutely through the roof. You had the pile of bodies that was kind of just laying there, and there was an interesting scene that was shown, is that Davos is controlling the archers, and Ramsay's controlling the archers on the other side, and Davos says, don't shoot because you're going to wind up just hitting your own men, kind of playing it safe, but Ramsay decides to let him go, and if you noticed, he killed a lot of his own men with those arrows, so just to kind of show the brutality that Ramsay has, and the lengths in which he's willing to go to win, winds up actually costing him. But you see the piles of bodies, Wub Wub being the star of the show, the giant, kind of knocking people, ripping people apart, which was amazing. And then, as kind of a history nerd, you had Ramsay's army use the phalanx position, which was actually used also by the Spartans from ancient Greece, in that, if you've ever seen 300 before, they should have brought back memories, in which they got their shield, they got their spears, and they just, closing in and making the most claustrophobic, uncomfortable scene. And that scene where Jon gets to the bottom of the pile and is literally being trampled and he can't breathe is honestly the worst heavy metal rock concert I've ever seen. That's the worst mosh pit you could ever be a part of in your life. That was absolutely awful. And I had this prediction because it was looking really bad. And when the Karstark guy was fighting Tormund, I was like, oh no. no, you cannot kill him because Tormund needs to settle down with Brienne. Like, this is already, it is written that this needs to happen. But the Knights of the Vale come roaring in last second, Lord of the Rings style, like Gandalf leading the charge into Helm's Deep, because the Vale, like wizards, are never late. They arrive precisely when they mean to. Lord of the Rings fans, that's for you. That was awesome. You see Littlefinger sitting back with Sansa with a big smirk on her face, and Ramsay's like, oh crap, this is, okay, we might have misjudged this. This is terrible. Which was just fantastic. Tormund wound up getting out of it, and stabbing the crap out of the Karstarks, which was great. And what winds up happening is you have Jon staring down Ramsay, and Ramsay does exactly what we're thinking he's going to do, and he's going to run away. He's like, alright, listen, I'm going to hide behind Winterfell. They can't lay a siege, they don't have enough men. And Wub comes in and breaks down the door in this fantastic scene in which you have Jon's army kind of breaking through the doors, taking everybody. Wub gets shot through the eye by Ramsay, is the last person to kill him. He was gonna have a touching moment with Jon, and that was the moment you realize that Ramsay really needs to die. And there's this awesome scene where he's shooting arrows at Jon. Jon's just blocking with the arrows, and he just beats the crap out of him. And it was so sad. So I won't lie. I literally was like, yeah, hit him again, hit him again, hit him again. And there was a moment where Jon looks up at Sansa and is like, man, I really want to kill this guy. I'm going to save him for you, sister, because you got to keep it in the family, because the family that kills together stays together. Remember that. So, a really awesome scene. And then you see Davos kind of staring down Melisandre, and you know that that's going to hit the fan next week. But the final scene, besides, of course, the Stark banner being hung and the flayed men finally falling, which was really just a win. Even if next week's the most depressing episode in the world, this was a nice, reprieve, a nice win. I feel like this was a little bit for the fans, but it was so awesome. It really was. And the last scene in which Ramsay is tied to the chair and Sansa's just standing there looking at him, saying that your name will be forgotten, your house is going to be forgotten, you are nothing. And the hounds start slowly approaching him, and Ramsay's like, no, my hounds would never attack me. Well, you haven't fed them for 7 days, and that, kids, is really what we need to talk about in this episode. Animal abuse. Don't do it. SPCA, Arms of the Angel, Sarah McLachlan will come for you, and they'll bite your face off. Fantastic, perfect irony, perfect way to end Ramsay, his own dogs, eating him to death. And I'm not gonna lie, I said, no, show it, don't turn away, because I'm a terrible monster just like Ramsay, and I wanted to see him die. Anyway, and then Sansa walks away with the smirk on her face, which was just the perfect ending to that episode. So honestly, 10 out of 10 episode. I absolutely loved it. And I'm actually, as soon as I'm done with this, I'm gonna go watch it again. Great episode. Finale next week. I can't believe we're already at episode 10. Here's what I'm thinking. There was something brought up in the beginning of this episode, and it was talking about the Mad King, Dany's father, and how he had these stashes of wildfire under the Set Balin and all over the city. In Bran's vision, if you recall, he saw the wildfire being ignited. I have a feeling, and I've seen this on the internet too, that Cersei, who doesn't have the trial by combat because it's her trial next week, I mean, she might light some wildfire up and destroy a whole bunch of King's Landing because her son has abandoned her, his son has betrayed her, she is forced up against a wall by the High Sparrow, and her only way out might be just to kill everyone. And I wouldn't be surprised seeing Cersei do that. So I see that coming, which is gonna, so maybe the wildfire is gonna burn down King's Landing. I feel like Arya might get to Westeros. You have Dany maybe might set off to Westeros as well. So you have all these characters finally coming to the main stage. And the episode next week is called Winds of Winter. I think we might see the White Walkers once again, and I have a feeling that the wall is going to come down. In that you're going to have Bran, who's going to go across the wall. For whatever reasons, that's going to negate the magic on the wall, as it did, kind of like he was able to find him when he was hanging out with the Three-Eyed Raven. And they're going to be able to bring the wall down. So, Next week is supposed to be, I think, one of the, if not the longest episode of the entire series. They put a lot of time towards it. It's going to be over an hour. I am super excited about it. Let me know what you think is going to happen down in the comments. Let me know how you like this episode. I think it was a 10 out of 10, absolutely, bar none. Best episode of the season. Definitely probably my top 5. I'm going to have to watch it again. Just the battle scene was just really, really cool. The opening was awesome. But yeah, let me know what you thought down below. My name's Tom Grossi. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Game of Toms. Subscribe, like, do what you gotta do. I'll see you next week for the finale. Enjoy.